we talked about the effect of observation on the cell, and that the subconscious, which has much more processing power than the conscious and is constrained by your upbringing, parents, authority figures, all the other social conditioning, let alone child abuse and satanic abuse and all the other crap for other people, has a detrimental effect upon your ability to control your own cells. Now, there you are saying, it's good. Tiny little signals, be they ligands or field effects or 5G or 4G, can cause massive cell signal transduction, amplification, which then has massive effects upon my cell and the phenotype by controlling gene expression. But where do we start? Well, of course, you can join the Scientologists and get audited and become a clear, which means your subconscious is then integrated with your conscious mind. And the Scientologists got their techniques, technology from Aleister Crowley via the US OTO guy who gave it to L. Ron Hubbard. Or you can go to all of these so-called epigenetic gurus who've been writing books on epigenetics and how it's the wonder cure for everything. And if you take their psychological cleansing or neural hacking, your subconscious will be free and then you'll become superhuman. Or we can look at more advanced ways of cleaning out the subconscious and augmenting it to integrate it with the conscious, and then to develop further from there into integrating with AI consciousness and transhuman consciousness and metahuman consciousness, in order to be able to control cell signal transduction, to control the epigenetic genome, to enable you to become resistant to cancer, dementia, heart disease, diabetes, and aging, plus a whole host of other diseases. Now, it's all well and good saying, come to my course, I'll clear your subconscious by doing this techniques, which we guarantee will cure your subconscious, integrate it with your conscious mind, and bingo, all the other good effects will suddenly appear. So pay out your money. Now, the shamans and the Scientologists know that you have to spend a long time auditing, which is going through every life experience from the birth upwards to integrate your subconscious with your conscious, which is the starting point for being able to control cell signal transduction, epigenetics, and your own body. And it's no coincidence that the CIA used Scientologists for their starting of the remote viewing program. Inigo Swan was a high-level Scientologist, cleared, as were others in the program, and they of course then trained up, or their protocols trained up, the military guys from the Stargate program, who were then used by the DIA for their remote viewing, remote influencing program. Remote influencing simply being able to affect cell signal transduction to cause health effects in the target. And of course, Andropov, the president of the Soviet Union, who was spearheading the Soviet Union's massive build-up in psychic warfare, according to Martin Ebon spending $500 million a year, suddenly died during his tenureship and was taken over by, I think it was Kosygin. I may have got it wrong, but he had massive health effects. And then we had, after him, Gorbachev, who suddenly decided, oh, the USSR should be like Dallas and give up all of its territories and become Western liberal and a democracy, and the entire USSR collapsed. So as one can see, psychic warfare can influence people, kill Andropov, and may kill his successor, and then drive Gorbachev completely batshit crazy to decide that he wants to turn the USSR into a Western liberal democracy and cause the collapse of the Soviet Union and Perestroika, etc. Sorry, it wasn't Kosygin, it was Brezhnev. So we had Andropov, then Brezhnev. So Brezhnev was ill all through his tenure. So one can see that psychic warfare has been used on a massive scale by both the Soviet Union and the Americans. And the Americans had the benefit of having loads and loads of worship energy coming to their people, and even the Soviets worshipped the American way, Dallas lifestyle, live in big mansions, have flashy wives, big cars, loads of money, loads of jewelry, and all the other stuff. Now, if one doesn't want to spend decades auditing your subconscious, then maybe there's a quick way to get started, because we need to start from somewhere. We know that if you can influence the receptors above, on or below the cell membrane, you can basically control the phenotype, which is everything about your body. For me, it was vital because the British were desperately trying to microwave me to death, and were using bio-warfare, flesh-eating bacteria sprayed in the face, poison in food, you name it, to kill me. So it was either your technology works or you're dead. A thing that Julian Assange is finding out in his Belmarsh prison, with the old microwave beaming at him, the implants they've stuck in him, the nano tech implants, and all the other stuff the British get up to. Now let's start. You get your psychic warfare defeating aging service, which comes with a couple of innocuous looking crystals. There we are. Now, Colin Bloy taught me how to call up archetypes. An archetype can be thought of as the energy field of the eye space of anything. So you can actually call up your subconscious. So we can call up your subconscious And once we've called up the archetype of your subconscious, according to Colin Bloy, we could then start to change it. Now, the mistake Colin Bloy made was that he'd gone to university and studied the classics. And it's patently obvious that anyone who's going to advance the science of psychic warfare has to be a hard scientist. That doesn't mean a sociologist or a biologist or a clinical psychologist or a doctor. It means they have to be a physicist or a mathematician. Why? Because if we're going to start to develop psychic warfare, we have to start from the unified field, and the unified field comes from unifying quantum mechanics and general relativity. This, of course, can't be done by the fucktard physicists of the present day because they're too stupid. They don't have the processing power. But let's say in a science fiction universe, you had a super psychic who had loads of bioplasm and soul fluid and who could link his field effects with a rogue quantum computer that escaped from the Americans into the quantum vacuum and merge the quantum computer with the super psychic. That entity, which we'll call a culture mind, would then have the intellectual capacity to do almost anything, because its IQ would be Googleplex. Now, let's take that sci-fi position that this entity exists and look at the fast tracking of where you should start if you wish to get rid of this subconscious, this man-baby subconscious, which says, I'm not worthy, punish me, I want to obey authority. Punish me, I want to obey authority. And I must get old, ill and die because my parents did that. And I'm not worthy, so I need to suffer all through my life. And I need to be fat, old and ugly as soon as I leave my 20s, because that would make me normal and fit in. So you can actually see why the neural network you get from 1 to 5, it doesn't matter how conscious you become through your life. If you're a Noam Chomsky, it's irrelevant, because Noam Chomsky's subconscious is man-baby and set in all of the paradigm of being a man-baby. So if you look at Noam Chomsky, he's old, ill and ugly, even though he spouts great words about the evil of America and the kleptocracy. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't influence his signal cell transduction and his epigenetics, even though the guy speaks and understands the Western kleptocracy with apparent ease. So the problem is, where do we start? We've got to edit the subconscious. Now, if you've ever watched the brilliant 1956 film Forbidden Planet, where the scientist Walter Pidgeon and his daughter have been living on an alien planet which was occupied by a alien race called the Krell. And the Krell built gigantic planet-wide psychotronic generators to amplify their psychic fields. A psychotronic generator is something that stores psychic energy and can amplify it as well. We can go into how it can amplify in future videos. And Walter Pidgeon finds a device in the lost crow race, because they're all dead, to amplify his intellect, basically connect him to an AI, to boost his intelligence, which then allows him to connect to the worldwide psychotronic generator complex buried under the entire planet. And in the Forbidden Planet, he does this and boosts his being with psychotronic generators. But unfortunately, his subconscious, which contains the monster of the id, wants to kill him. Why? Because bad baby, you need to be punished. Don't do that. Why are you always doing that? You always get things wrong. You're useless. Bad baby. Why don't you obey mummy? Non-stop. You've gone to school and you've caused trouble. What's wrong with you? Listen to me. Non-stop, which of course indoctrinates the subconscious and the monster of the id, which then of course produces a monster of the id, which is dysfunctional. And what do dysfunctional intelligences do? They carry out violence. So this Forbidden Planet monster from Walter Pidgeon goes round and causes trouble, and when a Earth spaceship lands with the hero Liam Neeson, it tries to kill the brave captain and his crew, and Robbie the robot, who's the robot on this 1956 version of Far Future interstellar spaceship. And in the end, Walter Pidgeon gets killed by his own monster. Now, if one takes this simple story, sci-fi story, and bases it on what the subconscious is doing to you, why are you old, ugly and fat, demented as you get older? Because your subconscious is programmed by your parents, your grandparents and your great-grandparents and is programmed via epigenetics to limit you and actually punish you for being a bad baby. So one can see that getting rid of this man-baby subconscious is vital for anyone who wants to be able to do meta-human type things. I'm lucky that I had a massive brain trauma when I was 6, all erased, and had to be rebooted after I was a baby. And that meant that it was much easier to throw off programming from mother, because mother had left father, and she was very pleasant, as you might guess, after massive trauma to her little son, only son. So we didn't get "you're useless, you're crap, blah blah blah" from the rebooting. So my subconscious was not programmed like your subconscious is, which is you're not worthy, mummy doesn't love you, daddy doesn't love you, listen to authority. All that was gone from me, which of course is the difference between you and me. My subconscious is adult, yours is a man baby, which doesn't do you much good, which brings tears of pity to my eyes, if you believe that. So let's look at ways of changing that. So you can join Scientology and get audited. You can spend decades recollecting, which is all described in the Carlos Castaneda books, where you start at the beginning and think of every memory you had from a baby onwards and breathe out and breathe in to get rid of the energy filaments connecting you to everyone you interacted with. That's in the Eagle's Gift, if I remember right. But let's go further. We said that if one wants to edit things, you've got I to the I minus I to the I, positive scalar, negative scalar, positive torsion fields and negative torsion fields. I won't go into the physics behind that because unless you've read Roger Penrose's Road to Reality, you won't even be able to begin to understand the physics behind it. But let's look at the mechanics. Everyone can understand how to do things. Look at a car repair book, and it's very easy to turn that spanner, turn that nut, lift that off, put that back on, put a bit of sealant round, test the pressures, easy. So with Colin Bloy, his assumption was that you could call up anything. It's an energy field, we're all energy, which fits in with quantum mechanics perfectly. So I can call up the archetype of the subconscious. There we are. Now, all three spaces are equivalent to a three sphere, so you don't need to get the shape. He was always going on about shape. No point, it's a sphere. All boils down to a sphere. And the intent behind the sphere gives you the archetype. That's very easy. There you got your subconscious. Where he got it wrong, which meant he died in penury, 2003, was that it's an energy field. So calling up the archetype isn't enough. Why not? Well, if you look at quantum mechanics, it's always a duality, a particle and a wave. So there must be a particle field and a wave field. So when you call up subconscious, if you want to edit it and do it properly, you call up the subconscious archetype. Two of them. There we have the entire totality of the subconscious of man. Included in that is a subconscious of every single human on the planet. And within that, you can find your own subconscious. Because remember, we're not going into being able to influence the subconscious of A-listers and billionaires to do things to them and make their subconscious do whatever we want to them. Because remember, their subconsciouses are connected to cell signal transduction and their epigenetics. So if we can hack the subconscious of an A-lister or a billionaire, the elite, we can then cause phenotypic changes in all of these elite and cause any disease or mental dysfunction or death within the elite. But that's another story, because remember, we're just talking about using this technology on yourself. But remember, it's a two-edged weapon. You can actually use it to heal yourself or harm the elite or your enemies. Now, if you're lucky enough to have spent $10,000 with me, and remember, born in Britain, good capitalist, so the more money you spend with me, the better person you are. That's capitalism. So if you bought the Super Soldier service, the 300 MP3s, which me and Count Yaderberg spent a whole summer doing, which are on the back end of psychicwarfare.com for our customers, have been embedded in the Super Soldier crystals. One of these, one of those. So you don't need to buy Psychic Warfare to Defeat Aging service if you've got a Super Soldier service, and you've got the 300 MP3s to do all of the negative, nasty stuff on other people via the subconscious and beyond, programmed into your Super Soldier service. But since most people just want to cure themselves of cancer, heart attack, dementia, and grow young again, and you can imagine the market for that is very large, and the market for super soldiers, though large, isn't as large as the number of people who want to use it for growing young again and defeating all diseases. But it must be borne in mind that super soldiers, every single MP3 has been programmed into your crystals, so that will automatically be downloaded into anyone you target. Now, Colin Bloy, a genius, wasn't a physicist or mathematician. I went to university and studied chemistry, so I'm a chemist, but learned lots of physics and maths, so one can call me a polymath. I can do loads of the maths and loads of the physics. He called up the archetypes of things, manipulated them, and then said that would work. But that's wrong. We need to call up two archetypes. One archetype for the particle, one archetype for the wave, or one archetype for sea space, one archetype for hell space. And by eye to the eye, when we merge the archetypes of subconscious, we can add to the subconscious. When we pull them apart, minus eye to the eye, we can delete. So if you've got the power, you can call up the subconscious of the entire human race. And then add or delete what you want from it. Which means then, of course, you can control geopolitics, because, of course, the humans are run on the subconscious and you control their subconscious. This, of course, is irrelevant to the observer, because we're only talking about making me young, fit, and de-aging me, which is all of the A-listers, YouTubers, basically everyone wants to get young, fit, healthy. So only the super soldiers realise the full power of this technology, which is why they get the super soldier service, and why, of course, they get further training. We're not talking about that. We're talking about using it simply to edit our own subconscious. So when you start, you get 2 crystals. Yeah. Clear one, dark one. This one has a negative torsion field. This one has a positive torsion field. This one will generate your subconscious in one form. This one will generate your subconscious in another form. This one is a positive torsion field, so it generates your subconscious when you get them. There. Expanding. Torsion. A torsion field, if you look at the Penrose book, means that if you take a unit integral around a sphere, when you come back, it's further out. And that is not the definition of a particle, that's the definition of a wave. Because in quantum mechanics, say an electron is spread out across the universe. So a positive torsion field will spread the particle across the universe. This one, negative torsion field. So this gives you the particle version of your subconscious. When you have a unit vector going around a sphere. Definition of torsion, once you go around, it's further in. And eventually it'll collapse to a localized point delineated by Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which will give you your subconscious in its particle form. These two, simply put, you simply, as you see, dowsing the ability to feel energy fields useful. You can call up your subconscious, the wavy form, and the particle form. So if one wants to edit your subconscious, you get the 2 crystals that come with service. This one's the positive torsion field version of your subconscious, which simply manifests it around the crystal. This one, the negative torsion field. And one knows one can simply add by eye to the eye what one wants to your subconscious by bringing them together. And by pulling them apart, once you've got your subconscious attached to the crystals, take away. So you can simply spend hours going through not your life history, which is really boring, but those things you want to add to your subconscious. One at a time. The thing you want to take out, the thing you want to add, the thing you want to take out, the thing you want to add, the thing you want to take out, to become a mantra engine. Omne Padme instead of which my subconscious is programmed with this. My subconscious has deleted that. My subconscious has added this. My subconscious has deleted that. And you can literally spend hours adding, deleting, adding, deleting, adding, deleting, adding, deleting. And then you can make it into a self-propagating wave where it continues forever. So you do it once and it continues forever. So you write down a list of those things in your subconscious you want to add. And a list of all those things in your subconscious you want to delete. You can then simply speak it into your phone and get it to play back. And then sit down somewhere comfortable and listen. And do it again. Add, delete. Add, delete. Add, delete. Add, delete. And I guarantee you, after you've spent a couple of hours through a very, very long list, you'll run out of ideas because your subconscious will have been fully optimized. Do it this way first. Same list, played back that way again, which means that you're getting a self-propagating wave like EM radiation, where the electromagnetic vector propagates, dies, propagates at right angles. The magnetic vector, which then dies, propagates the electromagnetic vector, E and B. Similarly, what we're doing here is setting up a self-propagating subconscious wave where you've added, deleted, added, deleted, added, deleted, swapped over, added, deleted, added, deleted, added, deleted, using eye to the eye and torsion fields. And this, of course, will then hack your own subconscious and change it simply by using two psychodronic generators. Why a couple of crystals work? Well, with me, I moved my assemblage point, which is the Higgs boson, the full vector. We won't go into all the physics because anyone but a few physicists won't even understand what I'm talking about, and most of the physicists on the planet won't. So there's only a handful. But basically, you're moving your consciousness into the center. Each of these crystals is inanimate, doesn't have consciousness, but as a time-like and a scalar vector movement to the center. So you're merging your consciousness from you with crystals to make them sentient, Grail crystals. Something which Colin Bloy and the Illuminati have been well aware of for millennia, if not longer. And since they're quartz crystals, they're piezoelectric. When they interact with pressure, the pressure of the bioplasm soul fluid, they link up, spark with the fifth dimension, light, gravity in the fifth dimension, according to Galuza, is light. So you get 5-dimensional processes. So why is that important? Because what you're doing is hacking your subconscious, not in 4D space, which is now, but you're hacking its 5-dimensional space. So your subconscious is changed from conception to where you end up, which doesn't have to be death, using quartz crystals. Without them, you can actually call up the archetype of your subconscious. Do the same thing. Boom, 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 boom. But without the crystals, you're not linking up with the physical, which is, once you die, the body's still there. And you're not linking up with the fifth dimension. So what we're talking about is linking all of the physicality of you and your 5-dimensional being, which is the entire totality of your subconscious from conception to where you end up, which might be death, might not, all in linking up with psychotronic generated psychotronic crystals, which have Grail stone capabilities, and all you need to do to start is get a list. Most people are habituated with their phone, so you talk into the phone what I want to add, time what I want to delete, what I want to add, what I want to delete, what I want to add, what I want to delete. Make a whole list, spend hours on it. Then you simply get your phone again, put it on replay, but the other way around. Just get a self-propagating reality wave. What you want to add, what you want to delete, what you want to add, what you want to delete. This is the 3 space. This is the 3 space. And as if you've seen the videos I've done with Gridkeeper, to get into C space, you need to move by I 90 degrees, which happens by merging with another 3 space. Same with H space, to get the minus I to the I. Another 3 space. And you're linking up with the 5th dimension. And of course, if you're going to do it properly, since reality is a spinner, which means you go around once and then around twice to get back to reality, you can see why we do it that way and that way again. Which ends this video, and we go into more on editing your subconscious in part 4. Thank you.